Welcome back. And now for the news in detail. Armenia says it is ready to engage with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe Minsk group for a ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said any potential truce in the disputed region should be based on 1994 and 95 agreements. It said hours after OSCE's call for ceasefire, Azerbaijan has opted for further escalation. Well, Armenia's defense ministry claims its air defense system has shot down an Azeri warplane and 2 drones. This comes after Azeri defense ministry said it has liberated some critical points in the western Agdare province from Armenian occupation. It added some strategic hills in Agdare's Madgiz region were also liberated as border clashes entered their 6th day. Baku's defense ministry has claimed to have killed at least 2,300 Armenian soldiers so far, while Armenia claims killing 130 Azeri soldiers and wounding 200 others. Pakistan has rejected claims its armed forces are fighting alongside Azerbaijan's military against Armenia in Nagorno-Karabakh region. Pakistan's Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said the baseless claims are irresponsible and speculative. Chaudhry said Islamabad is deeply concerned over the deteriorating security situation in the disputed territory. He said the intensive shelling by Armenian forces on civilian populations of Azerbaijan is reprehensible and unfortunate. The spokesperson said Armenia must stop its military action to avoid further escalation, as it will compromise regional peace and security. Chaudhry said Islamabad supports Baku's position that is in line with the UN Security Council resolutions. US President Donald Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for the COVID-19. Trump said the couple has entered quarantine and will get through this together. The virus is approaching 1-year mark as it was first detected in November 2019. More in this report.
The coronavirus pandemic has triggered unprecedented challenges as the global cases have surpassed 34 million mark with over 1 million fatalities. Earlier this year, British Prime Minister and Brazil's president were infected, and now US President has also contracted the virus. This comes after Trump's closest aide, Hope Hicks, tested positive and had traveled with him to the first presidential debate in Ohio. White House physician says the president and the First Lady are well at this time, and Trump will continue to carry out his duties without disruption. Meanwhile, with second wave surging in Europe, the French government is set to put Paris on maximum COVID alert from next week. Health Minister Olivier Véran said the move will most likely lead to closure of restaurants and bars.
We've seen these limits on a series of coronavirus measures being breached in just the last few hours. We need to have confirmation in the coming days. If it is confirmed, we would have no choice but to classify Paris and the immediate suburbs as a maximum alert zone as early as Monday.
India's coronavirus death toll is nearing 100,000, a grim toll that ranks it only behind the US and Brazil. The country recorded nearly 1,095 deaths and over 81,000 cases in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, new daily infections in Australia's hotspot state, Victoria, have fallen to a near 4-month low.
There are 261 active cases of coronavirus in Victoria, with 7 new cases since my last update. One of those cases is linked to a known outbreak. 6 are under investigation and 1 case was reclassified. I'm sad to have to update you that there are now 802 Victorians who have passed away because of this global pandemic. That's 2 additional since yesterday's report.
South Korea has reported 63 more cases, posting a double-digit daily growth for the 2nd day in a row. Health authorities remain vigilant against possible mass infections in the country during the Chuseok holiday this week.
In Pakistan, 15 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, raising the death toll to 6,499. The Health Ministry says 625 more people tested positive overnight as 8,877 active cases remain in the country. The ministry said out of over 313,000 detected cases, 298,000 have recovered so far. It said more than 137,000 cases have been detected in Sindh province, while over 99,000 have been reported in Punjab so far. The National Command and Operations Center said 735 hospitals are providing facilities to 720 patients admitted across the country. The Taliban say the group and the US have agreed to adhere to and make efforts to implement the Doha Agreement. Taliban's spokesperson Mohammad Naeem says Mullah Baradar Akhund-led delegation has met with US envoy Zalmay Khalilzad. Naeem said the two sides discussed the release of the prisoners and other issues including peace and intra-Afghan talks. Meanwhile, Kabul has welcomed the European Parliament's call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Afghanistan. In India, protesters from opposition parties clashed with police as anger over the gang rape of a low-caste young woman continues to grow. Police scuffled with politicians when they tried to meet the victim's family members in Uttar Pradesh's Hathras district. Yesterday, Congress party leaders Rahul Gandhi and his sister Priyanka Gandhi Vadra were briefly detained. The two were on their way to the Hathras district to meet the family of the gang rape victim. In other parts of India, protesters carried photographs of independence leader Mahatma Gandhi and faced off with police. In the latest case of violence against women, the 19-year-old died from injuries on Tuesday after being attacked near her home. Turkey has expressed concern over the EU's continued reference to sanctions amid its maritime tensions with Greece. In a statement, the Turkish Foreign Ministry said it's unhelpful to describe the steps taken by Turkey as illegal. The ministry was referring to an EU statement threatening to impose sanctions on Turkey. Earlier, Turkey and Greece set up a military hotline in a bid to reduce the risk of clashes in the region. The two countries are at odds over energy exploration rights in the eastern Mediterranean. Hamas has rejected the United Arab Emirates' claim that Israel has stopped annexing settlements in Palestine. In a statement, a spokesperson for the Palestinian group said Abu Dhabi's claims aim to mislead the Arab public. The spokesperson said the UAE is attempting to cover up the crime of normalization with Israel. He said Tel Aviv approved the construction of the settlements in the West Bank after the normalization agreements were signed. He said the recent UN reports show Israel has demolished over 506 buildings in the occupied Palestinian territories this year. Earlier, UAE's Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed said the normalization deal with Israel forced Tel Aviv to scrap the annexation plan. The US, Israel and the United Arab Emirates have agreed to develop a joint strategy for greater coordination in the energy sector. In a statement, the energy ministers of the three countries said they will work to develop energy resources, technologies and related infrastructure. The statement said the three countries will work on renewable energy, oil and gas and water purification technologies. It said the joint effort will undertake investment from the private institutions to leverage research and development capacities. The minister said they will also seek to provide solutions for the energy challenges faced by the Palestinian people. The agreement comes in the aftermath of the US-brokered UAE-Israel normalization deal, much to the anger of the Palestinians. Lebanon has sought the international police help to arrest two Russians over Beirut blast. Authorities say the explosives abandoned at Beirut port had resulted in the explosion in August. State media said a court issued arrest warrants against the captain and owner of the ship that brought explosives 7 years ago. In 2013, Beirut port authorities seized the vessel carrying ammonium nitrate due to outstanding debts, and its cargo was unloaded in late 2014. Authorities say the explosive material was stored in poor conditions at the port for years. About 20 people, including port and customs officials, have already been detained over accusations of negligence. The EU has imposed sanctions on dozens of individuals accused of rigging last month's presidential election in Belarus. President Alexander Lukashenko was not among those sanctioned, but EU Council President Charles Michel said he could be added to the list. The sanctions include asset freezes and travel bans for those targeted. A wave of protests has gripped Belarus since the controversial re-election of Lukashenko. 4 European Union states and the UK say the poisoning of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny constitutes a threat to international peace and security. In a letter to the UN Security Council, Britain, France, Germany, Estonia and Belgium urged Russia to disclose the details of the poisoning attack. The letter said Moscow should cooperate with the UN Security Council on this matter in a transparent manner. It said the medical tests showed that Navalny was poisoned by the Soviet-era deadly nerve agent Novichok. In response, Russia's ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, said Moscow is still waiting for Germany and France to share the evidence. Moscow has long promised to hold a thorough investigation into the incident once it receives credible evidence from the German authorities. Earlier, Navalny accused Russia's President Vladimir Putin of ordering the poisoning in late August, while Kremlin denies such claims. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Mexico's Supreme Court has backed a constitutional referendum to prosecute 5 former presidents over crimes committed on their watch. Mexico's Supreme Court President Arturo Zaldívar says 6 out of 11 judges allowed the referendum to go ahead. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador long-termed his predecessors as corrupt, blaming them of enabling economic inequality and chronic violence. Critics accuse the president of similar failings, saying the move is an attempt to polarize the country and a political gimmick ahead of 2021 midterm elections. Meanwhile, the president's supporters hailed the court decision as a landmark in an effort to hold past leaders to account for country's failings.
Citizens came together, more than 2 million signatures, without political parties, without the government intervening, without the support of the media, with honorable mentions, of course, so as not to generalize. So why deny the people's participation? There's no reason to be scared of the people. Democracy should be considered the power of the people.
Earlier, López Obrador said if the court rejected his bid, he will move to reform the constitution to find another way of pursuing the matter. Now, moving on, Canada has announced a $7.5 billion infrastructure plan in a bid to recover from the economic slump caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said with smart and targeted investments, the government will help create jobs and grow the economy. Trudeau said his government was committed to building a healthy, sustainable future for everyone. He said the plan will bring back more than 1 million jobs lost during the COVID-19 crisis. Trudeau said Canada Infrastructure Bank will provide the money from its $26 billion fund set up in 2017. The Canadian Prime Minister said the 3-year growth plan will invest in clean power, domestic infrastructure and agriculture.
3-year growth plan will invest in everything from clean power, zero-emission buses and home retrofits to broadband and irrigation infrastructure for farmers. This is a win-win. With smart, targeted investments, we can get people back on the job and grow the economy while building a healthy, sustainable future for everyone.
CIB Chairman Michel Xavier said the bank will aim to invest and reinvest the pledged funds to keep on building the infrastructure required for sustained growth. Now, moving on, Pakistan has launched a series of development projects to uplift living standards in its southwestern province of Balochistan. Let's know about the efforts and the progress in this report.
The recent development projects in Balochistan express government's firm resolve to end poverty and promote health and education in the province. Government has launched several projects worth $550 million, reaching people living in all remote areas. Avaran is one of those districts where health, education and employment provision for locals is government's top priority.
We are trying our best in providing every possible medical facility here at the district headquarters hospital. All major examinations and tests are being conducted too, but government is requested to take more measures to upgrade this hospital for even better reach out to masses.
Socio-economic development for the people of Balochistan is multi-dimensional, but locals say education holds a key to the province's bright future.
I'm a teacher here at a school being run by Frontier Corps. Let me tell you that children of this district are very enthusiastic when it comes to learning and getting educated. Not just children, but their parents also want them to be in school, but more and more educational institutes are required in this regard.
Vocational training centers for local women and young girls have also been set up by armed forces.
My message for the girls across Balochistan is to come forward, educate themselves and create their own identity.
It's been a year that I'm coming here at Vocational Center and I've learned a lot. It's an interesting activity to undertake along with education. I finished high school level studies and will keep this journey to go on.
Government says the objective behind this drive is to support Balochistan in eliminating the negative impact of economic deprivation amid COVID-19. The most encouraging factor of the education for youth and basic primary level kids was that we found out that the current regime of Balochistan government and the armed forces is not only giving them basic education, but also they are getting them skilled so they can excel in other walks of life as well. Reporting for Indus News, Sumaira Khan, Balochistan, Avaran.
China's tourism is set to soar as the country's scenic spots are bracing massive tourist arrivals during the National Day holidays. What about the festivities in this report?
China has begun its 8-day holiday for both the National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival. The Mid-Autumn Festival is a harvest festival in traditional Chinese culture. The festival falls on the 15th day of the 8th month of the Chinese lunar calendar with full moon at night. In an ancient village of East China's Anhui province, the villagers are airing out chilies, corns and other crops, forming various characters and pictures to show their best wishes to the country. The breathtaking natural scenery in Shisui city of China's Guizhou province also attracted large numbers of tourists to appreciate the autumn beauty. For the 8-day holiday, the scenic spot also rolled out a series of epidemic prevention and control measures to ensure the safety of tourists. In Shaanxi city of central China's Henan province, 9 performers presented molten iron splashing performance to the visitors. It created a fascinating firework-like display to extend wishes for good harvest and to celebrate the National Day and the Mid-Autumn Festival.
The US has fined Emirates airline $400,000 for operating flights in prohibited parts of Iranian airspace in 2019. In a statement, the US Transportation Department said the flight was carrying the JetBlue Airways code and was subject to their regulations. The Federal Aviation Administration said Emirates operated flights over parts of Iranian airspace for 19 days in July 2019. It said the fine was imposed as the US had barred flights due to heightened military activities and increased tensions between the two countries. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.